Hey nerds! It's Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Exclusive tabletop game podcast for the Pacific Northwest. All levels of gamers. Analog gaming. Tabletop news. Dungeons and Dragons and magic. Stupid, mindless banter.
There will definitely be some that's probably our best.
Lot of
That's
stupid
our best
Hey, geeks,
feature.
Blue Samurai here, and I am with
Rebeculus, and also that guy.
I am so Paul.
Yes, and welcome to episode 67. Woo!
Shut the front door, really?
I know, yeah, we've had 67 episodes, and apologize to the viewers and listeners out there. We kind of slowed down with our episodes because we're all essential workers, and you got to eat and stay protected. So
We're sorry for depriving you of our awesome podcast wonderfulness. I'm sure this is a hardship for everybody not hearing us as often.
Here's my
as you
new
Hey,
member.
Steve's got pussy.
Yes.
Well, cat. Is that your new cat? Is that your new cat?
Yes, it's my new cat.
Oh,
Yes, that was Fuji. Yes.
Fuji.
Fuji, like the mountain.
Like the mountain. And then we have another cat named Kiku.
Fuji and Kika.
Kiku also like the mountain.
Oh, look at you. Thanks for bringing the geography in.
So, we have a great show for you today. Great interview. Paul,
Really great show. Sorry. Ed Sullivan.
No.
Never mind.
We're old.
You're too young. He doesn't like when we interrupt him. Look at that. He's patiently waiting.
You didn't interrupt me. I said,
No.
Paul, what do we got today?
Oh, hey, we have a pandemic special.
Aren't these all?
Dungeons and Dragons Rick and Morty. But
No.
if Zoom will
No.
capture this. No.
No.
Nope, it's not what we have. Try the other guy.
That is next week's episode. What do we have
sorry.
for
We're
this week's episode?
We're talking to Mike Selinker, who's awesome.
Good pronunciation. I think he would approve of that.
And also, we don't drink and podcast at the same time.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Since when?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, it's okay, but I don't know how you missed the fact that we're doing Mike this week and D&D next week.
Well, we just had the whole thing that we did for next week.
Yes.
About Rick and Morty.
But we also have some great con news, right?
Great con news, yes. There are no conventions. However, Gen Con is doing this cool free online thing. Go to gencon.com and you can sign up for why is my mouse not working? So frustrating with my mouse. Gen Con online, you can sign
Looks
up
like the
for-
mimic is eating his head. It's pretty
It
cool.
is. My wife painted this.
Get near the tongue so it's like it's licking your ear. Oh, you like that? You like that, don't
I
you?
really like that. That's
Yeah.
great. That's fantastic. Gen Con online, where you can do Discord stuff, or there's events, and just go to gencon.com and click online, and it's free. Also, there's merch. Also coming up, PAX Online, where you can also stay home and not pay for parking in Seattle. And there's panels, and there's content, and there's games. Go to paxsite.com.
If I might interrupt you, I know the
Yeah.
COVID sucks and everything, but like on some of these things where PAX Online and whatnot, like you could watch a panel, and if you had several screens, as I do, you could like do several things at one time, whereas in person, you couldn't necessarily do that. You couldn't see the speaker you want because the game you signed up for is going on.
Right.
So, just saying, there's kind of cool things
And
about
this
this.
is almost kind of better.
It's almost kind of better. And then you don't have to actually be near
Almost-
anyone.
Can I get that on a shirt? Almost kind of better.
Yeah.
.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I went to PAX once, and I hate crowds.
Is
And
that
I
why you
got
work
trapped
in a
in the
grocery
crowd.
store?
That's part of it. Yeah. Those stress dreams. You have stress dreams?
Not now. Not that I've changed stores. No.
Okay, well, I bet. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Um, but I have stress dreams,
And
like crowds of people. Um, anyway, PAX Online. Go to PAX.com.
all right. And of course, if you were here last episode, we found out unfortunately that Dragonflight, like all the other cons, are either canceled or well, this one's canceled. I don't think they're going online though. Pay attention to Dragonflight.
They have not updated their website.
Oh.
I love them, but they've not updated their website.
I think they're still trying to decide on whether or not they're going to go on.
Yeah.
Why can't everyone just, we can hold these things and everyone can just go in like bubbles, like, you know, bubbles, you walk
You
in
mean
your
like
bubble.
hamster
Yes.
bubbles?
Yes. And then we could all collect in a big hotel, you know, and just, I mean, going upstairs might be a challenge.
Sure,
But
sure. This is Kiku.
Kiku,
You
hi, sweet
Yeah.
pea.
All right.
Oh my goodness, you get the like highest cute ratings so far of this
I know.
podcast, and that
That's
never
right.
happens.
I'm trying to up our ratings on because Lord knows we need it. Which, by the way, if you want to contact us, email us at geeksofcascadia@gmail.com or
Your
On
personal phone
Twitter
number.
at Geeks of Cascadia, or at Facebook at
Yes.
Geeks of Cascadia.
Twitter, Instagram. Are we on those?
oh yeah.
Instagram, yes, at
Please do.
Geeks of Cascadia.
So don't forget to subscribe to us. So, Rebeculus, what do we got for Tip Top Game News?
Well, you know, I was trying to do a COVID-related set of games to review, but I thought I'd find a whole bunch of pandemic games out there, but really just the opposite. I don't think people want to put games out there with pandemic
They don't.
themes. I thought they would. But so I just picked some that were interesting to me. And one of the things that is interesting to me is these Japanese game shows where, you know, you get punished if you don't pass the thing. Like Silent Library or Batsu. I don't know if you ever watched Batsu. Do you know what Batsu means, Blue Samurai?
No.
Dude, for real? Okay, it means punishment. It means punishment. And there is a live Japanese game show called Batsu. And
I know what onada means. That means fart.
it's not what I asked you, but that's actually good to know. I'm gonna write that down.
What does hentai mean?
Oh, sorry, I've onada'd. And this game is Batsu. It's by Giant Fox Studios. It's based on the real live TV game show where you have 4 players. They're in front of a crowd, and the crowd suggests things, and they have to improv. And whoever gets the least votes of success for the improv gets punished via paintball gun to your gut, or I don't know, you got to put your fingers in a mousetrap, or eat sushi off a big hairy man's
Wow.
stomach. Those types of punishments, the
Wow.
things I love. So the because of the COVID, they came up with a party game, and you can play your own Zoom, you know, Zoomness there. I guess you could probably play more than 4, but it still says 4 players. It comes with cards, the suggestion topic improv cards. Of course, you don't need to be in front of a live audience to improv and vote on who did the best. And the punishments are kind of made up by yourself unless you pledge a certain amount. I think it might have been like, I don't know, $20 or something. Maybe it's 50. I forgot. You have to check Kickstarter. And they will send you a pack of punishment cards. Gargling beer for a minute while singing a song. Another punishment is somebody in your in your, you know, circle of friends like touches you with a little soft thing for a minute while you're trying to recite, so, you know, those types of punishments. Not it sounds kind of cool to me. And it's that's it. It's called Batsu, Giant Fox Studios, and it's actually not that expensive at all. So that was fun. That looked fun to me. I found this one called 19-Second Story, and it's by Taco Rocket Games. Taco Rocket, out of Austin, Texas, and it's by this teacher named Paul Lopez, and he created this game to kill time with his students. Good teach them. That would be a thing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sure.
I didn't say, but it looks really fun. You have 19 seconds to tell a story, and you have to include a secret word. And the secret word comes from the hand in your deck of the secret words. Everyone gets passed out 7 cards, and the opposing team has to figure out which of your secret words it is. Like your story could be 19 seconds long. It could be, I went to the grocery store. I needed to replenish the things in my refrigerator. I had to maneuver around certain customers to stay 6 feet apart. I paid for all my loot and took off. And if you're the opposing team, you might think that loot would be the secret word because that's kind of weird, but it wasn't. It was, in this case, maneuver. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
So that type of thing. It's really simple. It's really easy.
Yeah.
And whoever gets 19 points first wins. It's like super, super basic. And that's actually why I really liked it. Taco Rocket Games called 19 Second Story. They actually still need some more monies on Kickstarter until like middle of August. Not that much more. Help them out. And then, yes, sir. Yes, still Paul. Did you have a question, still Paul?
No.
Okay.
To support on Kickstarter.
Yeah. And then this is the third one. I didn't get to research this thoroughly. I'm sorry, but I'm sticking with it because it looks really, really cool. And if I were to force it being related to COVID, it's because a lot of people are cooking more here at home. It's actually called Recipe for Disaster. It is a card game of culinary chaos. It's by this chap named I'm so sorry, guy. Duncan Drury. It can't be the first time someone said drunken to you. It can't be. Anyway, he's from the UK, mate. He's from Maidstone, UK.
Okay.
All right.
My Cockney friend.
You can
yes.
edit that out if you want to. Anyway, it is also on Kickstarter. They have a few dollars left, please. And it's basically a card game, and you are competing with other chefs, and you have a certain number of ingredients that you have to all hurry and choose. And among those ingredients, you have to make this recipe until someone puts down a time's up card. And then when the time's up card is played, you have to figure out who has the best recipe, which involves the most ingredients and how successfully you tried to do what you were trying to do. And then the one thing I didn't get to research is the round of chaos. So you'll have to get the game and find out what the round of chaos is for yourself. But it looks super colorful and easy. I love games that are just kind of cards, like a pack of cards. I personally love that kind of thing. You can play like 2 to 8 players, it looks like. 2 to 6 players. And that's it. Duncan Drury, Recipe for Disaster.
Cool.
And those are my 3 game picks.
Thank you, Rebecca. So we're always getting into the Kickstarter and finding out the new stuff out there. Sometimes you can find
fun stuff. I was excited to see a lot of games like this instead of pandemic, like the earth is ending, like awful political games, although those are out there too.
Well,
but there was
well, speaking of ending pandemics and all that kind of stuff, I do have some other game news from we got from Team Yankee World War III. They're coming out with their new Team Yankee Americans available with Battlefront Abram Tank Platoon. You get 5 Abram tanks that you can get. So check them out. Though being in the military, I think a tank platoon is 4, not 5. But hey, get an extra tank. Why not? Also, another game called 50% off Eco's First Contact. Check that out. And from Portal Games, Imperial Settlers: Rise of the Empire. Check that out from Portal Games. And another interesting, I think, it's called Black Parades. Dice. I'm getting this all from Tabletop Gaming News.
Cool.
Looks like a really neat set of Kraken dice.
Black Parades? Black Praise?
Yeah,
what did you say?
No,
What'd you just say?
Black Parade. Kraken dice.
Oh.
Yeah. Check it out. So,
everyone should have Kraken dice. Cool. Oh my gosh.
Cool. And I know we don't like pandemics, but guess what? Pandemic Legacy. Z-Man Games announces Pandemic Legacy Season 0.
Oh, jeez.
So if you're not getting enough pandemic, and by the way,
maybe you want a different pandemic.
I want to introduce you all to Bob. Hi, Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Bob.
You're such a sucker.
Bob loves that game.
The suckers.
Bob loves all the pandemic games.
Give Bob a kiss.
Mwah.
Oh.
There you go. If you like Star Wars Fantasy Flight Previews and Arc Troopers for Star Wars Legion. So check
Who
that
likes
out.
Star Wars?
Yeah, what's that?
Oh.
What's Star Wars? Never heard of it. Also, if you like minis and you like D&D and you like the latest release that came out from Wizards of the Coast, Mythic Odysseys of Theros, WizKids is putting out a new mini set, so check that out. And of course, all of us are really excited what's coming out in September from D&D, from Wizards of the Coast, Icewind Dale's Rime of the Frost Maiden. So make sure you support your local game store and
Sure.
help them out because they could really use a lot of help. I know I've done my part with my local game store here, and I know we'd like to do more with Around the Table, but
Yeah, I haven't. I gotta get in there. At least to fill up a growler, if nothing else.
Yes, gotta help them out.
Poor Tim.
So
Captain needs you on the bridge still, Paul.
Uh-oh. So I think that's all I got for news and con news. Should we go into this pretty good interview?
That's a really good interview.
He was really he's really
that guy's like done so many things.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Mike. Wow.
Yeah. I was a little intimidated.
And I the fact that he gave us the time and really opened up on this the interview is pretty cool. So with that, why don't we find out what Mike has to say?
Hey, geeks. We are here with my very special guest, Mike Selinker.
Hello.
Mike, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm glad to join you, Geeks of Cascadia.
Yes.
Now that we've officially seceded.
Yes, and we and if you want to know more about Mike, you can just go back to episode 15 and we talk about his history and how he got into this.
Wait, what episode is this?
Oh, this is 67.
Oh man. Go back and listen to the Stone Age.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
We played games with rocks. We didn't even have sides to our dice.
Yes.
Back when there was conventions.
Yeah, exactly.
Geez, I may actually have to listen to this to a podcast from us now.
It was Gen Con 50, and you were so kind enough to let me talk to you, and that was pretty cool.
Great. Who do you got with you?
Thanks.
Oh, well, in the intros and outros, which you will not be a part of.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Yes. But Rebeculus is always with me, and still Paul is always with me.
Hello. It's a pleasure to meet you both.
Mike.
Likewise.
There, we've done the formalities.
Yes.
Successfully without any awkwardness.
All right, let's get to the dirt.
Yes.
The gaming dirt.
That's what we want.
So, Mike, what is going on with Lone Shark Games?
It's been a fascinating 3-4 months, I think, as everybody out there probably knows. I mean, I can't. But I think every company's story is a little different over the last few months. We had a very different experience than I think a lot of small game companies. You know, I mean, we're different in a lot of ways in that we punch a little bit above our weight. You know, we make games that other companies that are much larger than us, the style they make too, right? So, you know, we're just like an 11-person company, but we had a few things that other companies didn't have. We had a functioning warehouse, and so we continued to ship games to people, and we had a team that really cared about social justice and about taking care of our community. And so we did some things that I don't think, you know, people saw coming before we did them. Like we flattened all our prices down by 50% as soon as the first cases broke out here in Washington State, in what we called the Save Our Sanity sale, and probably had in some ways, you know, in terms of actual number of games we got to people, probably the best months we've ever had as a company.
Oh, wow.
Right. Now, I mean, obviously that may not be the best way to run a business overall, but
I was actually wondering if you did that because were your sales, I mean, were things not soaring because people had not much to do except playing games? I mean,
we didn't wait. Yeah, we didn't wait for anything to, we saw I came back from PAX East, where in Boston, and in that weekend, the nursing home in Kirkland got its first cases of COVID-19, and I just sort of came in the next day when I could go in, and I said, "We are in a whole mess of trouble. The whole country is in a whole mess of trouble. Here's my solution." I worked it out with my teammates, and the next maybe the next day or 2 days later, we just said to the world, if you want our game, so our games are particularly good for people in solo environments, right? We do a lot of stuff with puzzles, and so but you know, a lot of things we make, right, have listed from one player on, so things like Apocrypha and the Ninth World, and you know, other games like that, and you know, also things like the Pathfinder Venture card game. So we just said, fine, if we're going to have this, you know, several months where it's going to be a challenging situation, and also we should expect a massive wave of unemployment. You know, we just said, look, we're not going to charge what we can charge in a normal environment. We just,
Wow.
and you know, I mean, that's not sustainable in the long run, right? But in the short run, since we understood that our warehouse could continue to operate, we moved 5,000 games in a month.
Wow.
Jeez.
Minimum.
Right.
I don't actually know. I lost track, but within the first month we moved, you know, mid 5 figures for sure. None of this was new stuff. All of this was, you know, because we weren't getting our new stuff in, right, because of other supply chain issues that were being hit at the same time. So we were just like, look, if we have it, you can have it. And what happened was an overwhelming positive support. At the same time, other companies had the problem that all their inventory was tied up in one or two distributors, which froze inventory, stopped shipping, and stopped paying people.
Oh.
And well, you know, that's a triple whammy, right? You can't get to your stuff, you can't get it to other people, and you can't get any cash for it, right? Like that's and we didn't have any of that problem because not that we planned for it. We're not smart. I want to be very clear, but we're not capable of thinking that far ahead, right? but we're adaptive, and so we just saw the situation. We saw the need that people were going to have. You know, our media.
I feel like you read the writing on the wall at just the right time.
Well, there were two possibilities, right? And I said these directly in the first staff meeting that we had about it. I said, number one, we could look foolish, or number two, we could be right. And we're good at looking foolish. We're great at that.
Yeah, who cares about that?
We thrive when we look foolish.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what would have happened in that case is we would have moved a lot of inventory, and then we would have gone, well, shoot. Oh, well, I guess no barbecue party. Right?
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? It wouldn't have been the end of the world. We would have just been like, well, I guess we didn't do quite as well this quarter as we would have liked. Or we were right, and then this happens, right? So anyway, it was significant for us to be. We became kind of a voice for people coping with the struggles, and then, you know, the other thing happened, right? So so then we're like, okay, we're riding. We've done like 2 or 3 charity fundraisers for COVID-19 relief, and then May 26th happened, right? And so now we get the sense from, you know, again, we're not smart, we haven't planned for this, but a rising tide of anger and championing for justice happens, and we're just like, we're gonna do our best to help lead this too. And
can I interject? Because it goes into one of the things, and like I said, I wasn't kidding. I read and read and read about you since I woke up this morning. So, and yeah, it's not about the whole Black Lives Matter thing. It's not to talk about profiting off COVID or anything else, obviously, so. But
I wouldn't call what we've been doing profiting.
I read your I read your statement, your big statement about the coming clean, your complicity, and it was awesome. I thought it was an awesome stream of thought. And you keep saying you're not smart, but I disagree.
Well, at the very least, I'll say we don't plan.
Well, what you are is reflective, which is an awesome trait for people to reflect and think about what they've done. And to me, it was actually prior to this, about a month ago, I had read a statement on Facebook from our mutual friend that we have, was my first DM, and I was unaware, because I'm a very recent D&D person. I didn't play this when I was a kid. I was very unaware that this bled into the gaming world. And so when I was reading these things and all these Wizards of the Coast, all these cards that they're getting rid of and certain descriptions, and our friend saying he's not going to use these terms anymore, and I just thought, wow, I kind of never even thought of that. So after reading all the things that you wrote, after reading that this morning, talking about it and being accountable is the first thing, obviously. So what more are you doing? I mean, you can't very well, like, I'm going to rush out and hire a bunch of diversity employees. I mean,
no, in fact, we've seen the effects. We've seen the negative effects.
Besides the removal of the certain grammar and terms.
Yeah, we've seen the negative effects of pro forma hiring, just yeah. I mean, you have so on that front, right? So I'm a particularly what's the right word? Popular subject of the sort of right-wing Gamergate folks. Who
they don't like you.
Congratulations.
They don't really like me, and I somehow sleep at night. It's funny. It seems not to keep me up at night. So, but one of the things that got me on that list was my statement that we don't do really resumes or job interviews or design tests, because all of those things are really good at getting exactly the kind of person that you are when you administer them, right? All of those are basically mirrors to yourself. And anybody who fits that description will likely think and perform like you, and thus you haven't really expanded your company. All you've done is increase your work capacity, right? And I found that to be particularly flawed thinking, right? So we're a company that takes chances, I think, on people, but at the same time, I think we would stop short of saying, well, we have to have one of these and one of those and one of these and one of those to look like an appropriately diverse body. Yeah. What I just say is, when people say to me, well, how do I find, qualified women, to be on my design team? Like, is there
a binder of women?
Yeah, what a strange mystery. If only you had the subscription to the catalog that contained the women, you'd have the ability to function as a business. No, you just hire people that you think are great, and you do that by finding them at in gaming environments, right? I mean, you look to see what people have written online. You check out other games by folks and see if you like them. And if you do, then you go, oh, who is this person, right? And so that'll end you up with a much better group of people, than if you have a checklist at the start of your plan, right? And so no, I don't think there's a clear answer to the question, how do you make the game industry more diverse? I don't think that it's a one-stop, or rather, I don't think there's a single formula to it. I think the answer is, you find people who represent interesting backgrounds, who are interesting to you. Like, you find people that are interesting to you, right? Like Steve, right? Steve, you get some, you get different social circles and different backgrounds when you represent, your Asian experience versus your, right? I mean, like, you'll just bring something different to a conversation,
right,
simply by having the background.
It's having the people, and it's also having the hirers or people in charge being open-minded, for lack of a better term.
Right, and that's why, Mike, I'm really impressed with the way you do your company and you do your game design. How do you approach, like, because I was watching some of your YouTube videos and I've seen some of your games. It's like, even the characters, you try to go out of your way. I think one time you said, hey, I'm going to try to make this at least, it might be mostly women characters, and we're not going to stick to, one sexuality, and we're going to make sure they're diverse. Do you find it difficult? Do you ever find yourself, when you're designing a game and taking a step back, you know what, I need to do a little bit more of adjusting. I've made it too much. Do your personal biases come out?
Absolutely. You're totally hitting on something. The single best thing I can say about the reason our games are popular, I think, is because we do the work. I mean, like, our games, with the exception of silly stuff like Sausage Party and stuff like that, which is a fun little game, but it was just like an idea, right? When we do a real game, we do the work, we do the research, we do and usually you'll find some story that you can tell that is more interesting than a cookie cutter story. And so, by definition, our characters, one of the reasons so many of our employees have been women is because so many of our needs are storytelling needs, and there's some weird connection between those two, the two factors. I can't explain it. I don't think it's genetic. I think that there seems to be some thing that if I were to go with one of my games and just go, it's all men trying to make this, I'd get a different result than if the stories come through a group with differing gender experiences. And so, and the same's true with race and sexuality and things like that. I think that, I'm lucky. I'm a good writer, so I can tell pretty much any story I want. But is it going to feel right? Am I going to know it's right unless I can bounce it?
Yeah.
Unless I can share it?
Does it ever kind of bum you out? Like, I kind of feel like part of the, creativity is just like, you just have stories in your head and you're just thinking of things and oh, this would make a cool game or a cool book or what have you. And then you have the realization of, like, I need to do this the right way so that I won't get all this backlash and so that everyone is,
I've never found it a limitation.
Okay.
I've never found it to be a limitation. All right. I find that every now and then, like, I'm a horror writer, and so I will have people say to me, "You've gone too far."
Oh.
Right? I've definitely had.
Why have they said that?
Oh,
tell me why.
On a fundamental level, I don't sympathize with anything I'm writing.
Oh, did you did you write some baby murdering things
Sure.
or puppy kicking things?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even think of an example, but I'm
Does
sure
it
I have.
have to do with a certain house on the hill? Was that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the
Is
thing,
it-
right? I mean,
Did-
like,
Did
you
someone
Betrayal at House on the Hill.
betray you?
Did
Well,
you actually get pulled?
I was never in. Everybody assumes that I was in some sort of house on the hill, and
Come on, come on.
I don't actually remember. I mean, I grew up on a hill. I grew up on Capitol Hill,
Can I?
but I knew where all the elevators went.
Can I?
Like, there was never any point in my house where I didn't know where the things in the basement were.
I got a quick. I know this is a little bit of a tangent here, but it's like, because you brought this up. Was there something that you had in there, some event in that game that your bosses went, no, Mike, we are not putting that. Can you give us an example? Is that cool?
I've had,
Just one. Come on.
yeah. Well, yes. Well, I specific to Betrayal or to any of the games?
Oh, Betrayal.
In the case of Betrayal, gosh, that's a long time ago. I definitely
we need some think way back music.
No, I mean, yeah. So Betrayal was not a single person's product. Betrayal was designed at its core by a gentleman named Bruce Glasgow and refined through another gentleman named Rob Davio, who's gone on to amazing things since that point, creating the legacy genre, launching Dark Tower and a number of things. And so, but then it came to, but I was the person who said, no, we're putting this game out. I need the team. And so I got the best horror writers. And so I got Taylor Woodruff and Bruce Cordell and other people at Wizards of the Coast to write, and I just let them loose. And I mean, like, what you definitely see are the watered down versions of what they pitch.
I want a director's cut.
No
Darn
cut.
it.
No
Yeah,
question.
me too.
The director's cut. Yeah. Well, I mean, you might not. I mean, like, the thing is, like, like, in the sense, like, there were definitely times when I or other people would come forward, and the end result of the process was not, oh wow, you introduced a great new mechanic on how the house could cannibalize itself, but oh my god, I never want to do that again. Right.
Oh.
And so,
oh wow.
Yeah, and so I mean, you learn the boundaries of what some of the games, some of the horror games that we make are a little sillier than others, and some of them are like serious business, and a game like Apocrypha that followed up that was like, here we get to do whatever we want. There's going to be some silly stuff, there's going to be some really serious stuff, right? And so but yeah, I mean, like, I'm the person who comes forward and says, but there's a game, I won't spoil the ending for you, but maybe we'll play it sometime, a game of Apocrypha called Mike Selinker's Private Game. And the rule about that game is that you can never tell anyone what happened in that game. You can never tell you. It's the rule. You commit, and the way I ask the question is, do you want to play a horror game? If you want to play a horror game, we can play a horror game. But you have to say, I want to play a horror game and accept the consequences of that.
Okay, next OrcaCon, when we
Steve,
actually
tell
have
us about that after you play it, will you?
You won't be allowed to.
in an actual OrcaCon, where we ever meet again,
Yes.
we're gonna have to do that.
I would love
man.
to. I've run it probably 20 times now, and nobody comes.
Are there
out
like
of
special robes and candles? And
No.
that we-
To be clear, everything we do is all for is all for entertainment purposes.
Right.
It's just that my definition of entertainment isn't always the same as everybody.
I have a question, Mr. Hobbs.
Sure,
I
if you could. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. What made you decide to submit a crossword puzzle when you were 15 years old?
Jeez.
Is that just random, or were they having a
no.
contest? Or
No.
I'm talking about Bridge for Good.
Yeah. Okay. So I decided. So I got my mom's boyfriend, now her husband, bought me when I was 11 or 12 or whatever it was. Bought me the Dungeons and Dragons basic set, the sort of, you know. And until that point, my only real gaming experience was solving crossword puzzles with my mom, right? And so now I had two different things going on as a kid, right? For games, right? I was a puzzle maker, and now I had this new game that you know, nobody in my neighborhood had ever heard of, called Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, okay, let's play this game. And you know, I'm sitting there 12 years old at the seat of a giant. So I had in my basement, I had a this is going to sound strange. So maybe this explains why I make some of the games. So I lived in the basement. And,
Oh no.
yeah, so I lived in the basement, and I had this, but I had kind of we were not wealthy by any standards. We were, you know, whatever. But I had a little bit of a comfortable upbringing in one sense that I think most kids don't have. In that I had space. I had a 3-bedroom mini apartment in my house. It was just what other people would call the cellar where things go to die. But you know, in my case, it was fantastic. So I had a bed, and I had my bedroom, and I had my music room, and then I had this giant table. And the table suddenly became the Dungeons and Dragons table. And so I had a row of airplane chairs. I swear to God, I don't know why I had a row of airplane chairs, but I had a row of airplane chairs that I was the dungeon master from. And you have to remember, at this point, I'm like, what, 3'9"? Right? Like, you know, right. I'm not, you know, not overpowering anybody here. And, you know, but I get to be in charge of this world, and I get to be the person who's the, you know, the powerful person for the first time in my life of any control of anything. And I sort of get this experience of like, wow, so I'm doing this and it's great, but I can do this. And I'm like 15, you know, I'm like 13 years old, right? I'm like, but you know, some of this stuff is stupid. Why is all this stuff stupid? Why is it not done right? Of course it was done right. It was done by, you know, talented professionals in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin and stuff like that. But for me, you know, it's like, no, it's not telling the right stories. It's not that. So I decided that, and the same is sort of happening with me in the puzzles, is like, I decided, all right, I get something out of this, but let me try making one. You know, we didn't have, you know, any tools or anything like that in that regard. I just sort of got some graph paper out that I got from being a Dungeons and Dragons player, right? And these two things made perfect sense together. I didn't know what graph paper was prior to getting the D&D base set. And I just drew some words out, and I figured out I could write in 2 dimensions at the same time, which is a weird thing. And I just sent it in, and I never told anybody what my age was. Right?
Oh.
I just sent, because at that point, you know, you don't get on a Zoom call to talk to the editor when you're submitting something, right? You just sort of throw it over the transom. Hi, my name is Michael D. Selinker. It's very important that my middle initial is in there for some stupid reason. It makes me feel
it sound more important.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And I send these in, and they respond with feedback of like, yeah, you got a lot going on here. Don't really like this one thing. Can you change that one thing? And I'm like, sure, these are adults talking to me. I do what adults tell me, right? And so I did those things, and I got a little bit better, but it was like, you know, over a couple month period, and I sent the stuff back, and they printed it. And then I think by that point, though, they had started to figure out from the correspondence that I was missing some pretty clear, you know, like, I'm just guessing that at some point one of them turns to another and said, this is a child, right? Because I haven't said anything. I haven't said.
You're like, no, I'm 14.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, I haven't said anything. I haven't, like, you know, said, I hope to one day be like you when I grow up. Like, I haven't done any of the tropes that a kid
Right.
meeting their heroes did. I just put all that aside and just like treat me like my work, right? But then they figured it out, and they're like, okay, so they started asking a question. I'm like, yeah, I'm 13 years old, whatever. And they said, oh, okay. Now they started talking to me like, that they could actually fix things that were wrong with me. And so they did that. Like they went through and they were like, okay, so here's how you do this kind of thing you are trying to do, and
Right.
you're doing a pretty good job of it.
Wow,
but
they
if
gave you that much feedback, huh?
yeah, they're like,
That's
I have
pretty cool.
giant letters from these handwritten,
Wow.
handwritten
Wow.
letters,
That's
right?
cool.
From
I'm
these
surprised they
people.
didn't just not reply at all.
No,
They
at
must
this
have
point, well, they
clearly,
realized that I wasn't
yeah,
good yet, but they got
diamond in the rough.
they got a sense that I was gonna be. I mean, they're printing my stuff at age whatever, 14 or 15.
Wikipedia said 15.
Whatever, yeah, that sounds right. Well, if you got it from Wikipedia, it's got to be true.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so they're printing my stuff, but they're also editing it heavily. That's the other thing that's going on, right? Is that what I'm seeing is how when you take something that I have thought of, which somehow I'm able to think of at age 13 or 14, but not quite fully formed enough to execute perfectly. Like I see the version that comes out and I go, oh, I run down whatever bug exists in my head. I go, oh, okay, this is different, this is different, this is different. Learn, try. And so I managed that process, I think, very well, in the sense of like, I'm going to absorb everything out of the brains of these people as I can while they're still talking to me. And
Nice.
so, yeah.
And absorb it, you did.
Well,
Yeah.
by the time I put myself through college on the basis of, sorry, that's not a true statement. Northwestern University put me through college. I managed to pay for my expenses in college, basically because I was a freelancer in the game industry by the time I was 17.
Wow.
Wow.
And so I needed that ability. I would say that if I was thick-headed at that point in I'm thick-headed now. Let's be very clear. If I was as thick-headed then as I am now, and resistant to feedback and stuff like that, I don't turn out like this.
So, Mike,
Right? Because
right.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what I've noticed is that there's some game companies put out something, and this is going back to diversity and all that. Because I'm just curious about your background, how it brought you to this. But you don't just talk about it, you walk the walk of diversity and social justice and your progressive politics. In fact, I've seen you support candidates. You've been very vocal with your writings. You practice it in your business. I'm just curious, where did this all come from? Is it just the way you grew up? Is it the fact I believe you worked for Mayor Daley in Chicago for a while too?
Yeah,
Was it Chicago politics? What
yeah.
brought this about?
I had the fortune of, so, I mean, as a kid, my parents were very vocal and very strong-willed about things, about social things. I went to protests before I could walk, stuff like that. And but I remember things like when I was 7, 8 years old, making signs for candidates and stuff like that. So I mean, I was always steeped in this. When I went to school for journalism, I became a serious journalist and investigative reporter, and then sort of there's this sort of overlap of the Richard M. Daley's crew in Chicago and the beginnings of the Obama machine. And I happened to be lucky enough to be coming into Chicago at that period of time. And so I got to meet never met Obama, but I met literally everybody else and worked with everybody else in that. Obama was surprisingly not a major figure in that movement, right? He was like me on the fringes in some sense, right? We just didn't overlap, but we and so but the more I did that stuff, the more I did serious stuff on hate crimes and discrimination and housing and federal funding of education and stuff like that, the more I just needed to be a gamer, right? Like the more, I mean, my output of one did not impede the output of the other. It increased the output of the other because I had to be like, I can't deal with this every day. Every day I gotta, deal with, gang. I was the city's, an expert on gang symbols and hate crime database and stuff like that. That's stuff you can't take home with you, right? You gotta clear your brain out, right? Otherwise you go mad. So
is that why maybe you chose the path of game design? Because it sounds like
yeah.
you could have been great in government. You could have been the chief.
Well, I could have been okay at the very least.
Could have been a contender.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think you show a very clear reason why I wouldn't be good in government. Right? I mean, like you know how to get people who differ with you to come to heel, and
he does,
and make something positive out of your differences, and I'm not tolerant.
I feel like you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
I
would
love
not.
this. Let me know when I'm allowed to ask him about Maze of Games,
We'll get
because oh my gosh, I absolutely am just wrapped by that.
But to sort of more answer Steve's question, right? I mean, like, I definitely never saw myself as an elected official but I definitely feel like being, like, I've had the luxury of being, like our representative here is Pramila Jayapal, and she and I had a one-on-one on stage at PAX a few years ago, right after the Trump election, and I wouldn't call myself her equal in any way. She's just vastly more accomplished than I am, but we could talk as if we both had something to contribute to the conversation, right? And that's where I want to be, is I just want to be in the conversation. Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, the walking the walk thing, I mean, what we just decided was we're always going to do 4 to 6 things a year that are charity or social justice focused. This particular period of time has ramped that up quite a lot, but there's no point where we're not doing something to dramatically, well, not dramatically, to have some effect on our community. So in the last few months, in addition to the trying to get games into the hands of people who couldn't otherwise afford them during this period of time, we've spent a lot of time releasing puzzle series that you can get if you donate to particular charities, and we've raised something like, I think, about $100,000
nice.
so far for various charities in that regard. And I mean, and these aren't, we do humble bundles that with our friends there, and try to raise money that way. We just it's part of the deal when you walk into my company that you're gonna do this. Like, there's no, well, I just want to play games and I want to leave my social principles at the door. It's not a tenable position in our company.
Right.
You want to talk about Grids for Good and plug that a little bit?
Sure. Grids for Good, did you say?
Grids for Good, yeah.
Yeah, so Washington Post crossword constructor Evan Bernholz and I know each other, and he wanted to make, he's a board game nerd, just like we all are, and so he said, I want to do a charity project, and I'm like, sure, sounds great. He says, how do you do that? And I'm like, oh, well, all right. So we got together and we sort of figured that element out, and but what he was able to do that I just thought was amazing was he got everybody who's a crossword puzzle maker that has any sense of social justice to contribute. He was just like, look, I'm doing this. I want people involved. You know, you hit the mailing list or whatever. Said, look, if you want to be involved, we're doing this thing. And so what it is it's it turned out to be 42, auspicious number, 42 crossword puzzle constructors of varying backgrounds from all over the world. Contributed to this project. It was originally designed to be just to benefit COVID-19 focused charities, and then, as I mentioned before, things changed. So they added a social justice element to it, and you know, one of the great things about doing these projects with lots of different people is we all have like different groups of people that we talk to. So I have a mailing list. You know, he has the Washington Post. That's not trivial, right? Like
Yeah.
you like I don't know if it was in the print edition, but on the web edition of the puzzle page, it's like here's this thing where some of us are doing, and his bosses are like, I guess that's cool, and you know, we raised money for a lot of charities that way. That was one that didn't require you to pick a specific charity. Sometimes, like the stuff we do on puzzlepop.com or loanshark games/donation, sometimes will be about a specific charity. So we did one for Every Mother Counts. We did one for the Equal Justice Initiative. We did one for Campaign Zero. You know, all that's in the last 3 months.
And you're just amazing, man. You always come up with these games like constantly. I don't know how you do it.
I
You're
know.
always thinking ahead, and you've been able to put out something where you combine because you're a student of game design, game theory.
I think that's right.
And bring it in with politics. And I'd read some of the stuff. You had a book at one point where you kind of combine the two, and it was like, wow, I was actually doing this and I didn't even know about it. Because
Yeah.
game theory is part of it is psychology.
Oh, it's all that. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and what your next project on that is?
Well, I will, and I'll make an announcement. You will make an announcement. Okay. So, newsflash. I hope this isn't spoiler. In 2016, we elected a sociopath as president, and I was just like, how the heck did this happen? How we do this, right? Like I'm walking around like a hammer
I think we're all stunned.
Yeah, walking around like a hammer has hit me in the forehead, right?
Don't make me relive it, man.
Well, no, I mean, yeah. Well, I got some news about November, by the way. So we anyway. So I mean, you know, like everybody else, I'm like, doom, and but then I start thinking about it, right? I'm like, okay, so there have to be some lessons here, like there have to be something, and I'm like, and I start thinking about it and thinking about it.
Trying to make lemonade out of those lemons?
Well, maybe you know, in a certain way, yeah, but more just like trying to not scream all the time, right? Just try to figure it out. Like I figure everything else out. Like, I mean, that's what I do. I figure stuff out. And so that's my job. And so I'm like, can I treat this like it's my job? What would I do in the environment where this, and I remembered all this stuff that I had been taught or had learned or read about game theory. A friend of mine, a math teacher named Rich Molina Weber, is you know, he's a game theorist. He's straight up 100% qualified game theorist. I am not, by the way. I never went to game theory school. He went to game theory school, and so I'm like talking to him. I'm like, am I doing something right here? He's like, yeah, do what you're doing. And so I start writing these columns for Medium, and a magazine called Politics Means Politics, and but basically the first one I do is called what is it called? It's basically game theory and the 2 magic words that will impeach Trump, right? Like that's the thing I do right out of the gate. And I do it from a game theory analysis of like, okay, so if I needed Trump to be impeached, this is like, a month into his term, 2 months into his term, like we're not really talking about impeachment.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, let's say it was important. What would I do? And the answer I figure out is I say the 2 magic words are and Pence, impeach Trump and Pence. And the reason I say that is, and the reason I'm going through this is not to focus on that article, but I'm like, okay, we need to get Paul Ryan into this thing. Paul Ryan has to want what he wants, and he wants certain things, and other players want certain things. And how do we deal with that in a game? Like, what happens when you have multiple competing agendas? How do you deal with that? And I start talking about like that. I'd also previously done a column about when John Boehner said, Speaker John Boehner said that Obamacare was not just a damn game. And I'm like, let me teach you what the difference between a game and a puzzle is, Mr. Speaker. And so anyway, these both got shared all over the place. Like they were like, these 2 articles specifically were like, this is a game theorist talking to you about how this happened. Listen to him. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm just like a game designer. I don't know what's wrong with you people. But people did start listening. And I was like, all right, let me do this again. And so I did another one called Co-op Mode, about why Trump saw good people on both sides in the Charlottesville thing. And then another one about abortion rights and the game theory of armor. And just I kept doing it. And people were like, this is a thing. You have to keep doing this thing. I just thought, I'm just putting some words out. No, people are like, no, you need to do this. Because what I was getting was people saying, you're changing people's votes. I had somebody come up to me at a convention in San Antonio and said, you changed my vote. He was going to vote Republican all the way through. And he was just like, no, I figured it out. You're saying all the things. Like you talk to me like you didn't yell at me, right? It's not about yelling at people.
You can't inflict your shit on people.
I don't think so, right? But
that's gotta feel awesome, man.
Well, yeah,
wow.
But I mean, like that was one of those moments, and that was like really early. Like that was like a month in or 2 months in, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is a thing. This is a way I can speak without like it feeling like I'm just like if I were to go, I'm not a musician. If I were to go record a protest album, people would go, what are you doing? That's not you. But everybody respected that I was writing game theory articles.
Oh God,
right?
This feels like a natural segue that I talked to Steve about before you came on, and there is absolutely no irreverence intended at all. But Black Lives Matter game, a la Monopoly.
Yeah.
Draw card. Oh, that's racist. Oh, you lose your job. Boom.
I mean, we're more subtle than that, only because
I'm absolutely not trying to be irreverent. But if anyone can do it, you can do it because people learn through games. People learn through games, and
yeah, I think there are limitations. There are limitations that I've discovered.
I wouldn't want it to seem disrespectful or
Well, first,
diminishing.
Let's put that aside for a second. Like, let's talk just briefly about the way people learn through games, right? My political agenda is available to you through my games, right? The mere fact of my collaborators on the Betrayal at House on the Hill expansion. I had Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn and other people in that. And I was, these were my friends, but also, they're political lightning rods. And so, but, I let them maneuver to a certain point. And so we did, we did some game elements that are like that. But I think you got to kind of sneak it. You got to sneak it. Right?
Yeah.
You can't.
I'm not sure. What sounds like a good idea, might be not.
Like you can't just sort of put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
And say that thing is a thing I say. So I'm gonna like playing it, like, because you've already sort of depurified your game experience through that lens, right? So I'd much rather do something that's a little more subtle, so that what people see. Like, all of our games are thinly veiled parables. I think my game Thornwatch, which we made with Penny Arcade, and our guys Rodney Thompson and Chad Brown and Liz Spain and those people, is I mean, very clearly an ecological parable, right? It's clearly, like, if you look, even you take any moment and you understand that this is, the environment is rebelling against humanity and stuff like that. Like, all this, you're gonna get a pretty solidly left-wing take on, how people damage the environment and stuff like that. Every game we write is about something. The Ninth World takes place a billion years in the future in a post-racial, post-gender specific, environment where none of the characters are white. Many of the characters, it's really difficult to tell what gender they are. The Apocrypha is based on, theories about Alzheimer's disease. So everything I do has something like that behind it, but it's not on the it's not on the tin, right? Like if you put it on the label, what you're getting is a decision in advance of the people you're playing with. Oh, that's not me.
That's true.
Right? Or that's not something I want to be right now.
Yeah, the people
right?
who I would want to play the game wouldn't even
Yeah, you're not going to teach
buy
anybody
the game or
through
read
that.
about the game. Yeah,
The,
that's true.
One of the clearest examples I have of that is, and I was just reminded of it. There was some big racial justice issues around Dungeons and Dragons that came up recently. Not making humanoid races canonically evil was a big thing. And that's something we're just used to, right? Like,
Right,
orcs
going
are
back
bad.
to Tolkien,
Orcs are bad. Like, there's not good orcs. I mean, every now and then you'll find one, but all orcs are bad, right? And so that's what we've been taught, right? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, in a game that's basically about breaking into people's houses and stealing their stuff, I guess you need to you need some clear villains, because otherwise you might actually be the villains. I don't want to spoil the ending for you, but okay, so that blows up last month. In addition to everything else in the game industry blowing up last month, so that blows up last month, and something gets trotted out that I had just really not given any thought to, which is that people start sharing a scenario that I wrote. A Dungeons and Dragons scenario I wrote for Dungeon Magazine in I don't know, some 2 decades ago. And it's called Dark Thane Macbeth. It is a part of a Shakespeare series that I do. I did a thing that had The Tempest and King Lear, and sandwiched in the middle was this version of Macbeth. And what it was about was light elves and dark elves working together to try to stop the events of Macbeth from destroying them both. And somebody noticed and pointed up and found a PDF of it. Somebody noticed that was maybe the first time, and maybe like one of the only times, where as a group, not Drizzt, not the individual character, but the group of dark elves was treated as if it could have variation in its belief system. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I just thought it was cool, right? But I realize now that it was a huge deal for the editors at the time to publish that story. it was a huge deal because at that point, you know, Dungeons and Dragons was not the vanguard of anything,
No.
right? Dungeons and Dragons was a reflection of our culture, not anything that was going to lead to anybody, right? And I was saying, well, wait a minute now, let's put some messaging in here. Let's be on the right side of stuff. And I don't think there was any. I don't have the correspondence, but I don't think there was any like correspondence between me and the editors at the point where we were saying, you know, let's do something, let's strike a blow, whatever. But it mattered to people that,
Yeah.
and I totally forgot. I totally forgot that was a thing that happened.
I feel like we do forget because I mean, you know, we're all basically white, and I don't know about you, but I grew up super sheltered, and there's the good guys and the bad guys, and it's fun,
Sure.
you know, and everything. But the reality of the world is that there are shitty people in every race and color, and awesome people in every race and color, and everything.
I think it's a better place.
And it's
to
not
be.
disappointing in a game. I don't
Yeah.
think it's not disappointing to me to see all this represented. Like, there's a bad guy, and I don't care what he is. He's a bad guy, and there's a good guy, and they're defined by their actions.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like I think the game environment doesn't lose anything if you have to be clear when somebody's doing an evil act rather than
Yes.
stating that because of their nature they will do evil acts.
Yes,
Right.
I
And
agree.
so that's the big thing, right? And so yeah, I mean, like I've been doing this for a while and it's been everywhere in my life. It's just the last 4 years has been right, just well for everybody, but for me it's been very clarifying. Just like, okay, I don't get to sit on the sidelines. You know, I'm from an ethnic background that does spectacularly poorly during fascist regimes, and so you know, as a Jewish person, I just don't feel like shut up, go along to get along kind of stuff works really well for me. That doesn't mean I have to have my message in front of everybody at all times, but I have to give them access. I'm sorry, I don't have to do anything. I feel like it is the right thing for me to give them access to it if we want. And that was the thing that Game Theory in the Age of Chaos was about, right? Was taking these columns that I've written and just saying, there's a hole here, with a W, there's a hole here that you need to get, that it's all part of a single interlocking game system. And you know, and it helped to clarify these things through understandings of poker and chess and Dungeons and Dragons and football and all the other things that we can relate to, as opposed to these monolithic things that are just, you know, billionaires and politicians making backroom deals. You're like, oh, that's something I can't do anything about. Well, actually, no, there are lots of things you can do about it. So now, I said there was going to be an announcement. So I'm doing a new edition of Game Theory in the Age of Chaos. It's the omnibus edition. It's going to have like 2.5 times as many essays as it had last time, and it's going to come out later this year. So I was like, okay, I need a new introduction, somebody who can write something from the point of view of 2020 and being in the middle of it. And who better than the veritable Steve Hobbs?
Woo!
That guy.
Yay!
Yeah, who has written the introduction, a great introduction about his gaming past and how it intersects with. Well, I'm not gonna. Why am I telling? Well, you tell people about it.
Well, I mean, you'll have to read the book, but yes,
Sure.
there was 2 things about this. One, when you asked me, I was terrified. It's like, oh shit, Mike's asking me to do this, and he's
I'm
this
terrified now.
designer and writer. Like, holy shit! And I was like, he's gonna know how dumb I am.
Yeah.
So
Well, we all know how dumb you are. That's not the point.
so I finally got the time to read through the entire book, and it came to me. It's like, holy crap, this is. I've been doing this, but I didn't call it, you know, because each of the game theories has a name, and it's like, I didn't know I was doing this. holy cow, I was doing this. And game theory is, as I read the book and as I did some of my own research about it, is part of it is there's math involved, but there's also psychology involved.
Lots of it.
And it's influencing people as well. And so that made it easier for me to write this. And I went, okay, I'm going to write this forward, and hopefully Mike doesn't totally destroy it.
No, it went in almost exactly as you wrote it.
Wow.
There were, you're maybe not the best at punctuating things the way
Thank
I
you. Thank you.
He's not. He doesn't
I'm
believe in
not.
punctuation.
But-
Period.
But don't worry, it's not like you're crafting anything important in
Right.
your day job.
I got people to check my grammar, Mike. So
but no, it was a fantastic forward. It's really great, and this is also another fundraising project, right? I mean, we have a big election coming up, and we have all these social justice issues that need to be addressed. And if I can do something that gets books in the hands of people and also contributes to those causes, that's fantastic too. And also it serves as kind of a strategy guide for fighting fascism.
right. I'm going to use it to get my bills passed now. So
Well, you can, if you need copies of it to get your bills passed, you just let me know. I'll give
there you go.
But no, seriously, I was so honored to have Steve do this. I mean, you're let's not just put aside that, yes, you are a serving senator and have
Don't stroke his ego too much.
but also
come on.
let's point
please.
out the National Guard during this period of time,
No, thank you. No.
right? You had to coordinate all the response of that, or I don't know if coordinate's the right word, but whatever it is you do with that, right? I mean, so I mean, the fact that you took time out of that to write this forward, I think was a huge boon, and I'm very
He just
happy.
passed out a bunch of
Thank you.
D&D games to his men, and they're still playing them now. So
Yeah, I'm forcing
how
them
it
to
works?
play
he's got
D&D.
plenty of time.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, we appreciate that.
Well,
So
thank you. Well, I got to tell you, I don't know if my two compatriots here, which I introduced you to, they are on the front line because they have to be out there. They're
We
doing the
work at a grocery store.
But yes, you have
Yes,
to
we
do it.
do.
Otherwise, we can't eat. We cannot eat food.
my wife is
You could eat. You could grow your own food and live off the land.
Ooh, no, it can't.
No.
No, it can't. Well, let's be very clear that I have
Right.
certain valuable skills, but none of them have anything to do with survival. I'm not, no chance whatsoever that if the apocalypse comes, I'm one of your first day casualties.
See, but now you know 2 grocery store people. So
Well, actually, I happen to have
got you,
that
man.
in my background because my wife, who's sleeping in the other room, because she has to go inventory her bakery
Oh, cool.
tonight.
Oh.
So
Awesome.
it's been interesting from that point of view too, right? Because we have such different lives right now. Before the pandemic hit, I was at an office every day. She would come home, from managing the bakery and, take care of the dog in the afternoon, and all.
Yeah.
Like she had a life that was confined predominantly to the hours of like 4 a.m. and 1 p.m. right? Whereas I had the struggle out of bed at 10:30.
Oh, I hate you.
And
Oh, I
yeah,
hate
right.
you.
I mean, like, and then I'm still working at 9 p.m. right? So we had these but I'm at my office or whatever, right? And so then this thing hits, right? And now obviously we discover who in our family is essential and non-essential, right? Like a very clear definition
Right.
that the game designer we can do without.
You know what though? I mean, yes, but at the same time, it's like we need to eat, but we also need something for our brains.
That's right.
Or
Fair
we're going
enough,
to
but I mean,
lose it.
But in Maslow's hierarchy,
But yeah, I
of
agree
needs,
with you.
You're
Yeah,
gonna
I
put,
know.
You're gonna
She's-
put get
yeah.
food to people
Right.
ahead of that.
So
Damn, you're married to a baker.
Yeah,
Dang.
so-
And so
Wow.
I'm married to a bakery manager. It's even worse.
Oy, oy.
So
That's awesome.
so but you know, I mean, like now, right? I run my company. You know, we have an office, but it's not being used. I run my company virtually, and so we meet every day. And my dog is very happy with this situation. He thinks whatever happened, it was the best thing that ever could possibly occur. He doesn't read
Yeah.
newspapers,
Yeah.
and so, but also, you know, it's really changed my schedule radically because when Yvonne comes home, I'm like, I don't want to do any more work.
No, but you better make dinner for her.
Well, there's a little bit of that, but seriously, like the 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 9 to 5 existence just doesn't feel
No.
like a thing that I want to reimpose on my life when this is all over, right? I mean,
Right.
not that I'm saying
Yeah.
I might have to, right? But like
Right.
You
you know,
could
we
kind
have
of
rules. We had
split
rules
the
at the
difference,
office.
you know.
Yeah,
I mean, hit the
right.
office when you need to hit the office.
Right. Like maybe this is like, yeah, there's some disastrous stuff going on. Let's be very clear. It's not something any one of us wish for. But the end result could be a more positive, healthy environment to function in. And once again, we were taught who was really important in our society.
Yep.
Right. We were taught that there is no question the value that teachers bring to our environment, because if you take away their classroom, they have to be heroes every day.
Yeah.
No question, right? And so all of them had to learn new skills, and you know, parents had to sort of get an empathy for what their teachers were doing with their children, because they couldn't function
Yeah.
without them, right? And now going into the new school year, we don't know whether or not there will be open schools here in Washington State, or at least in various parts of Washington State. And so, you know, it's just like, I think, you know, I'm never going to say this was a good period to be alive, but I will say that I think the lessons coming out of it won't be all bad.
Right.
Yeah. I
And-
think there's a lot of amazing lessons and interesting things that we had no idea would come about.
So,
yeah.
so Mike, I got one last question.
Wait, before we do that, whatever
Yes,
your last question
yes,
is,
sir.
let's go back to the Amazing Games, because
Oh, okay.
I
Yes.
pushed that off from
Oh,
Bex.
thank you.
before.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I
yeah.
want to give Bex a chance to ask
Yes.
whatever she was going to ask.
Well, I mean, I want to get it, first of all. And then from your website, it sounds
Easy.
like hardcovers are kind of sold out at this point, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm down with the PDF.
No, I got you. And also, new copies will be in
Okay.
at the end of
Oh.
next month.
I feel like I'm on board with the PDF, though, in case I
Mhm.
F it up. I don't want to be writing in a book that I
yeah,
like.
that's what people. So
But also,
yeah.
I read somewhere in the thing, maybe I misread. Does Will Wheaton do an audiobook?
Oh yeah.
How would
So-
you do the puzzles?
Oh no.
in an
That's
audiobook?
fair. That's totally a reasonable question.
That's kind of pedestrian, but I have to
No,
ask.
it's a great question.
Oh.
So the answer is you don't. So Will is a great friend, and he.
Of course he is. Gosh,
right.
Mike, darn it.
I have some good. I have some good friends. I really like that.
Yeah, you do.
And so, but basically, Will is a voice acting legend.
Mhm.
He, and so I went to him and I said, Will, I'm writing this novel. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, this I don't remember what the sequence was. No, I take it back. He knew I was writing the novel because he backed the Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
Right. So anyway, he so we were writing the book, and I said, I want to do an audio book of this, because at some point, you know, I might sell this to another company, and I want to have the things done the way I want them done. So I say, and then people are like, what are you talking about? It's a puzzle novel. You can't. I said, well, wait. So the thing about the Amazing Games is that the pages are in the wrong order.
Yes.
And
You have to
so
solve. Yes.
You have to solve the puzzles.
Sorry, I read it all. I'm so
you're good.
excited.
You're good. We have to solve the puzzles to get the pages in the right order, right? So I was like, okay, well, you can't do that in an audio book, right? That's not a thing that can happen. But it's interesting to just get. So what we did is he recorded it, And then we assembled it in 2 orders. The first order is the left to right order of the pages. So if you want to listen to the book in a very sort of weird, surrealistic, puzzling way and try to figure it out, like how do these elements all go to each other, it's a really fascinating listen to it in the unsolved order. Because you're just like, where did these characters get this sword? How did this, oh, this must have happened before that. So it's got sort of this weird audio puzzle environment.
Okay.
Does
it, so it doesn't take away from it?
No, but so what people tend to do is they listen to Will do his, so he did 70 voices for this thing. Because the thing about 70, yeah, 70. Because the thing is about this book is that it takes place, it's the characters are going through a maze of puzzles, and it's really dangerous, and they keep running into different monsters and people, and so each 2-page spread is its own story page and puzzle, and it's a unique kind of D&D style encounter basically. And so that character only appears on that page. That character never appears again, right? So so he was just like, I'm totally, and so I called him up and I said, Will, I want to do an audiobook. You're a professional at this. I was hoping you could teach me about this and then recommend somebody to do this. And he said, Mike, if you let anyone else but me do this, I will kill you. It's a direct quote.
Like a valid threat.
And I was just like, my friend is threatening me with murder. All right, I probably ought to listen to it. So, and he did something. He went in and recorded this and wrecked his voice. I mean, wrecked it. Like he did the equivalent of throwing out his back. It took him out of commission for a week or more.
Is this one of the voices, or
no? It just, well, I don't know. I mean, just the whole range of it. But they had more fun. They said, he posted on social media that they had more fun recording that book than any other book that they'd ever done.
Cool.
And so later we did a sequel, sort of an interquel. I don't know what the right word is. A chapter that inserts itself in the middle of the book. It's kind of and he recorded that, and we did a series of audio puzzles that went with that. We had lots of other people who were musicians and folks like Molly Lewis and Kid Beyond, the beatboxer, and stuff like that, come in and do audio puzzles that were fun. And so the audio experience, I think, is one of my favorite things that we've done. It's kind of not me, and at the same time a little bit me. Like, it's like I'm more of a conductor than, because I don't have any particular, like I did some of the audio puzzles and I had fun recording those, but I'm an amateur. And these were professionals, and they were top billing.
Gosh, that sounds cool. Gosh, I want to get it. I don't even know how I want to get it. Now I want to get it audiobook style. But I also want the big deluxe book that Kickstarter offered, and I want the extra. I want the freaking the Gatekeeper's cryptics and all that stuff. I kind of want that stuff.
Well,
but
yeah.
I might be too late. I might be too late for that. So.
We'll hook you up.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, buddy.
So, Mike, this is a little deep question, but
I'm in favor.
I've been thinking about this. So, probably you and I both played D&D since the 70s.
Barely in the 70s, but yeah.
And growing up in a family where my mom's Japanese and very from Japan and a lot of Asian influence. When I came across D&D. It was very Eurocentric, very white.
Very much so.
And now you look at it now, and not just D&D, but other RPG games, other RPG systems, very progressive, very diverse. I remember when very bad name, Oriental Adventures came out. When it
a name that stuck around, just to be clear, for a long time.
Yes, it
past
did.
Its expiration date. It could have been, like, I was the creative director of one of the creative directors of the 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, and we could have changed that name, and there was strong resistance to changing it, and that looks like one
Wow.
of the worst decisions that a group of people associated with me has ever made.
I didn't like the name, but as an Asian American
Right?
growing up in the family, I loved the characters.
Oh
Being
yeah,
able to play something that was not Eurocentric, being to play a samurai, was it meant so much to me. And
yeah.
now in fifth edition and Pathfinder and all these games, the diversity is amazing. Was this driven because of market forces? We want to make more money, or was it driven because nerds like us, those of us that kind of used RPGs as a way to get away from our own insecurities and bigotry and harassment, are now people who are actually running some of these companies and being
Yeah,
involved with game design, or maybe it's a little bit of
that's
both.
it's a great question. Uh, it's very true that there was a turnover of personnel, right? Like, so that's not trivial. Um,
Mhm.
the people, role playing games came out of the Midwest, a group of white people, reasonably privileged, mostly men, and it reflected what they loved. Tolkien was a wonderful author, some problematic worldviews. H.P. Lovecraft, great author, real problematic worldviews, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
like the most,
yeah.
right? Um, but this is what they loved, and it wasn't because they were racist, and it wasn't because they were anti-women, and it wasn't because they were homophobic. They weren't those things. It's just what they loved, and they reflected that. And then a new generation came in around the time I became a creative director. I want to say I wasn't necessarily part of this generation. I was like the generation, half a generation above it, I guess. Like but the people who were 28 and 30 when I was 35 or whatever, right? Um, Suddenly came in with a whole different set of stuff that they were reading, right?
Mhm.
And so, and that stuff manifested itself. Now you could see the works of Octavia Butler and J.K. Rowling and other people, highly reflected in this environment. And those people, they also paid respect to the people that the original creators of the RPGs liked, but they didn't worship them in the same sense that the original creators of D&D worshipped Tolkien and Lovecraft and and so forth, right? So there was a huge change, driven by right around the time. Obviously, the big change was the takeover of TSR by Wizards of the Coast, which I happen to be right in the middle of, and so um, I got to help with that in some way, and so. But it wasn't perfect, as I said. We republished a book called Oriental Adventures, right? Like, it wasn't great. It was just better, I guess, is a better way to phrase it, right?
Yeah.
Then now you look at the next thing that happens at the same time is the rise of indie RPGs. And now this group of people is extremely diverse, right? And they're clamoring against the stuff that was there in the past. And now that group suddenly becomes immensely popular. Like, all the people like me want to be those people, and because they're having all the fun. And so I think that those are very much creator driven forces, right? So that's part one. Part two is the market. Um, you cannot tell the story of role playing games and tabletop gaming without uh, telling the story of Vampire the Masquerade, which was the greatest diversifier in the history of gaming. Suddenly it went from there's 90% of people who are playing the category RPGs to, in this game, 50+% of the people playing are women,
Huh?
right? And that had the biggest sea change. Like, now we had an audience, of people who were, you know, were not straight white men or white boys, and we had to serve them or go bankrupt. Like we had to that's a market force that shaped. Like, you cannot overstate the impact of that game on the gaming industry. It's like number 3 or 4 on
Wow.
the list.
Wow.
And
I
so
didn't even
Yeah,
know
I didn't
that.
know that
That's
either.
huge.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
and so
enlightening.
just just at the point where like you're walking around and conventions are just different, right? You're just like
Yeah.
you could notice it at the time of like, not just, I mean, you know, I hate to do it on the basis of physical characteristics, but not just that there were a lot of women there, but they were dressed like vampires,
Mhm.
right? Like they were dressed in these, you know,
Wow.
like they were incredibly noticeable, right? Because they became a dominant force. Like you couldn't walk through a gaming hall and not realize that you were in a different space in
Okay.
1991 than you were
Right.
in 1987, right?
Did you realize that
I
at
did.
the
Oh,
time?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Mhm.
I, you know, I problematic white male too. I probably, you know, made jokes about it and stuff like that. But, but I knew it was happening, and I knew it was a big deal, and that's why live action role playing was such a big part of my story. Founded a company called Livewire. We did a lot of celebrity-based live action games. We had a much more diverse environment, and just realized that this was the future. And so that's, you know, one of the reasons that my company has spent so much time being diversified, is that I got to go through that as a person, as a player, as a game master, as a, you know, and I thought it was great. And
I feel
so,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry,
No, please.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it shouldn't be a, I don't know, not a burden, but it shouldn't be a chore, a thing you have to think about, but it should be this like welcoming, awesome new shit that you've never thought of before, like including all these
Yeah.
people, and you know, it's
Uh,
just
uh,
it should be just eye-opening instead of a chore, you know, and I don't know,
Well, it was, and it was also
yeah,
good for, like, you know, stop writing the awful stuff. You know, stop writing this. Stop writing that story where the princess has to be rescued from
where she
the
trips.
ravages of the
Ugh.
orcs. Just
Right.
stop it. It's lazy. It's
I
boring.
do hate when they trip. They
Yeah,
always trip because
yeah,
they're always running in high heels.
exactly.
But
Right,
anyway,
right, exactly. Like that's lazy, right? That's lazy story writing.
yeah.
And so we had to tell better stories, and we
Right.
had to, you know. So I think the market force is just as important. Um,
as as a female though, I really don't. I don't. I grew up kind of sheltered. I wasn't offended, but when I found
no,
more and more females superheroes or whatever, I mean, that was my
yeah,
thing. I wasn't concerned with other, you know, non-white characters as you know,
sure.
females, and I wasn't
The
even concerned with it. It just kind of subconsciously fed in. But when it was that first female that didn't fall, that whacked him back, you know, it was
Right,
just
right.
like, yes, you know, and it was kind of, I didn't even realize I felt that way until it was just
No,
until it
because you don't.
happened, and it was like,
If you don't see,
you know,
if you don't see yourself represented in the game, you don't know what you're missing until you do.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
exactly.
and
Good point.
so yeah, so I mean, that's one of the reasons. Like, you know, obviously there are, like, our Pathfinder Adventure, our card game now has 250 published characters for it, and you know, a
Wow.
more majority of them probably are female presenting. I mean, I guess, but the important thing is that there isn't a racial group that isn't represented. There isn't a,
Mhm.
you know,
Cool.
I mean, you know, obviously there's some challenges, right? But you know, there's a diversified gender background, diversified sexual orientation. There are trans characters. There are disabled characters. There, you know, and just, I mean,
Cool.
because we
That's
want
so cool.
people to see themselves in it. Now, you
Yeah.
don't have to choose to play the version of yourself. Like, that's not what we're trying to say, right? We just want you to know that option is there. so that when you do make a choice, that choice is either from a point of being willing to reach out to something you aren't, or to be comfortable in something you are. And that's, and I
That's
don't
awesome.
know why we would. I don't know why we wouldn't want that. Like I just like there are people
love
who
that.
seem
That's
to be
great.
opposed to this for some reason, and I just have
Hey.
no patience
No.
for that position. Right? It's like why? Like there's one thread that I quote all the time. First, the game hadn't even shipped yet. Pathfinder adventure card game hadn't actually gotten to shelves. We just debuted it at Gen Con. And the quote on Board Game Geek, that thing is, why so many female characters? And that person just got dogpiled. Because
They
it's
should.
like, yeah, because it was
Why
just like,
not, man? Why
you
not?
saying now my son, please don't bring your son into this. Well, I don't want to raise my son to believe that he has to be a female to be. I'm like, really?
Wow.
Why don't you let your son figure this stuff out for himself? Because
I don't know why that
surprises
surprises me.
Jeez.
I don't know why that surprises me, but I guess.
Well, it's the naked versions of it are always the surprising ones, right? The
Yeah.
ones that are sort of couched in you sort of expect those, but you never like expect to see it right in front of you. And so and it's just like, yeah, we had 6 female characters in our first release and 5 male characters, and the game goes up to 6 players. So if you played a 6-player game of all men were players, one of them would have to choose to play a woman. Like,
I believe
what a burden we have inflicted.
We just played a recent D&D version, the Rick and Morty version, and I believe Steve played Ari. Not Beth. Summer. You were Summer.
Summer, yeah.
And
the Rick
another,
and Morty versus D&D. I think that's the way we.
Both the female characters were played by men. That was awesome, and they didn't care, which is great.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just if we're gonna make games about being someone else, you might as well be someone else.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
right.
what is the point of making a game where you can only be what you are?
Right.
Like, that doesn't.
True that. That's called life. That's called reality.
Like I got that game currently running 24/7. I don't need that game.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I don't know if that answered your question, Steve. But
it did. It did. And Mike, you know what? You're a beautiful man.
Yes, you are.
You're a beautiful man.
Guys
yes,
are beautiful
you are,
too.
sir.
Serious. You don't just talk the talk, man. You walk the walk, and it's reflected in your games. It's reflected in what you do to help people of color like myself and Ridiculous. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And
I don't know how to be any other way.
Why didn't you mention
Paul? Because Paul's helped me.
The European white man
personally.
needs a voice here.
Paul helped. Paul
Come
helped
on.
me in my my race. Thank you, Paul.
No problem.
I would not have had my job right now, my other job, my civilian job, if it were not for Paul. So thank you, Paul.
That's what
I support Bob.
Paul is an excellent defender
Yes.
of the marginalized.
So
people.
both of my who are on screen, my both 2 white male friends, thank you for being part of it. Because really, you can't bring social change unless you have everybody involved. That's how it works. You have to.
Aren't I one of your white male friends?
You're not part of the white male.
Okay.
friend,
Well, here's the thing.
I get called
American.
sir a lot,
Yeah.
so
I think there's just to be specific about that one point. I mean, you can't if you're a member of the group that is in charge and you want there to be change, you really can't sit on the sidelines because the change will come through you. Right? So I don't see any reason why it isn't in a white male person's self-interest to want to diversify the environment, because that's coming whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
And especially whether you help or not.
Hear that, Paulie?
So you might as well be there for the people who need help. Now, I'm not perfect, and I've definitely committed my share of offenses, and I think it's reasonable to be called to task for those things, especially in those decisions I made while employing people and stuff like that. And those things can come back, and you realize that maybe you changed a little bit, and you're willing to judge the past version of yourself a little more harshly. But if you can say that about yourself, you say that's the level at which you have to engage, you are incredibly privileged, because the other people have to engage at fear of their lives, their jobs, their families. When they speak out, they are putting everything at risk, and the least you can do is say, well, I'm there with you, because that doesn't cost you a damn thing.
Right.
Wow. Powerful.
Well said.
Mike, how does people get a hold of you on social media?
Well, I do chat. I do talk a lot.
Put your home phone number right here,
believe me,
up on the screen.
It's been close to that. Thank you, Gamergate. I use my own name, unlike a lot of folks. I just use my own name everywhere. So
is it all caps?
No, only on the cover of the Pathfinder
I read that.
Adventure
Yeah,
card game
okay.
in really big letters, which I really hate.
I was confused by that, but okay.
But no, I'm just Mike Selinker at Twitter, on Facebook. Lone Shark Games is the name of my company. You can go to loansharkgames.com to see all the free and charity stuff that we do, and check out our store and our blog and stuff like that. We're a company that values its customer base and its community a lot, so we will engage with you on whatever issue you want us to engage with you on. So please come find us and talk to us.
Wow.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Thanks for coming on our show, and well, hopefully we'll get to see each other again in person. That would be kind of nice.
Well, if you need me for anything, I'm there. And let's do the plug of the thing that we talked about earlier. You contributed forward to my next book, Game Theory in the Age of Chaos Omnibus Edition. There's gonna be proceeds going to various groups and candidates fighting against fascism. I'm very happy to be riding alongside you. So
thank you.
And I encourage people to go on your website, Lone Shark Games website, and read what you wrote. I thought it was absolutely amazing and awesome, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on your show. This has been great.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Mike is awesome. Isn't he so impressive? I love that guy. It was really, really an awesome interview, I thought.
Yes.
I wished we had more time.
It's so great that he he has these values and beliefs, and he carries that over into his business. And he doesn't hold back, right? He's a social justice warrior and a game designer all in one.
So what was for those of us, for those of you out there in the audience who didn't see his first interview episode, what was that again? 15 or 11?
Oh, yeah.
Some such thing before y'all decided to include me?
Oh,
well,
wow.
how did that differ? I can imagine that differed very, very much, because everything was different then.
I feel like that was a little microaggression I think you just showed right there.
No. But way to use the buzzword. That's good. I don't do microaggressions. I only do macroaggressions. So you'll know.
Episode 15, actually.
How did that differ?
We go more into like how he came to be, how he went into game design.
Because I imagine a lot of this, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, the political correctness. Probably you didn't even discuss that in the first one, right? That wasn't even a thing.
No, and to be honest, it's like, I follow Mike on his social media, and so I just, he's very active, and I just went, you know what, we got to talk about this, because, we all kind of interact with people, inside the tabletop gaming world, and social justice is a kind of a big part of it, and I don't think we don't talk about it enough on the show, and so I wanted to bring in somebody like Mike who does talk about it, who believes in it, who actually has a company that has that's kind of one of his values. And if you look at any of his games, you can see how diverse they are in terms of the characters and everything. So
Yeah, he definitely seems to walk the walk. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's good to see that. I mean a lot of these companies are doing it, and I'm glad that we've got that going. So I mean it's hard to be I don't know, to go these conventions and to interact with different people without being kind of open-minded and accepting of other people. It's kind of tough to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think of any of the games I played in all the conventions I went to. I don't think I haven't met any closed-minded people. Maybe it's just the nature of who we are. I guess I don't know. I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't met them. So
I'm closed-minded. I'm very, very closed-minded.
you are.
Paul pays me to hang out with you.
I have to correct you.
Right.
So.
He wants you to have friends. I know there's a lot of corrections of things I say that y'all don't see or hear because they edit it.
Yeah.
I have a statement for the viewers, people who do more than listen but view. You see this background by Still Paul, this mimic, this awesomely painted mimic by his wife painted that. And even though it looks super huge, like it's eating his head, it's a teeny tiny little mini. But why did she have to? I mean, why couldn't she have given it clean white teeth? Mimics always have bad dentition. Is that
gross?
Stains?
They're
Do they
gross.
not brush?
They don't floss.
They don't floss. Is that because they
Sure.
don't have like hands or whatever? I mean, is that why? Because
Yeah.
really, the teeth look good. It's just they definitely need some, care up top there. Does anyone else agree?
Sure. I think we actually talked about it before we started this.
It's a topic.
Yeah.
Take care of your dentition.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Well, that's all I've got for the show. How about you guys?
Well, I think I just told you my last thought.
Yes, that's true. Paul,
I'm done.
you're dead, Paul. You seem to be out of it, man.
Oh, wake up. What are you, waking up at 2 a.m. or
I
something?
jumped at 2.
What?
I jumped at 2.
Yeah.
He wakes up at 2. It's his excuse for everything.
Yeah.
I wake up
All
at 2.
right, folks. Well, with that, I guess we'll end the show. So embrace the nerd.
From 6 feet away.
Yes. And I hope you make that saving throw.
Me too.
Oh.